For those who don't know, Marcus is a major league infielder for the Toronto Blue Jays, and he just recently signed a 1-year deal. Previous to the Blue Jays, he was with the Oakland A's, where he finished third in the AL MVP race, and he's also a Bay native. Welcome, man.
Thank you. Glad to
Yeah.
be on.
Yeah,
Thanks
man.
for coming on, dude. Like Mike says always, we are very pumped to have you on, my friend.
I appreciate it.
Hey, so before we dive into the majors and the big contract you just signed, would love to learn a little bit about your upbringing in the Bay. Paulie, our mutual friend, gave us a little bit of an inside scoop on you, but give us the inside.
Yeah, I grew up in El Cerrito, which is a small town in the East Bay, close to Berkeley. I played sports pretty much from age 5 till now, of course. And I started with basketball, actually. And the first league I was in was actually in San Francisco. My parents are from the city. So Stonestown, YMCA. And then once I turned 6, I played El Cerrito youth baseball until age 12. And then I started the whole travel ball circuit, which seems like starts at age 6 now, which is crazy. But, I just continued to play sports throughout my childhood in the Bay Area, and it kept me out of trouble. El Cerrito is a pretty safe place to live, but there are places around there that aren't safe. And, what I noticed was sports always kept me out of, those areas and out of trouble.
Can you expand on, so your connection to the city, your parents worked in the city?
Both my parents grew up in the city. So my dad went to Reardon, Marcus Semien. My mother went to Lowell. And they knew each other in high school. They both went to UC Berkeley. And their freshman year in college, it was actually the year I was born. They were class of 1989. I was born in 1990. So they are about to turn 50 this year, and I'm 30. So I have young parents. And, I was born in San Francisco because my mom was so young, still living at home and going back and forth to Cal. So that's where I spent the early years in the city.
What
product of the earthquake? You just came right out, dipped in Bay Area tradition. You got Berkeley, the earthquake. So,
Yeah, so funny story about the earthquake. So my mom worked at Foot Locker in Tamfran or something, and all the shoes fell off that's all she said. All the shoes fell off the wall, and let me think. She wasn't quite pregnant with me yet, but shortly after that, she got pregnant.
We got an earthquake story too. Mike was born out of the earthquake. The ground split, and someone came up from under the ground with horns and then handed a baby that was Mike to my mom. And it was crazy, no.
So why did you were looking at high schools? Why not go to Reardon or Sacred Heart or SI? Why did you go to it was St. Mary's?
Right. So my parents split when I was young, and my dad stayed in the city. And we stayed in the East Bay, so Albany, El Cerrito. So when I say we, I say my mom and I and my sister. And my dad did offer for me to move in with him, go to Reardon, his alma mater, all boys school, good sports school. And it didn't happen, but that would have been pretty cool just to play at my dad's high school. And I know that Pat Burford was over there at Reardon, a good baseball player who I played with in travel ball. So I knew a couple guys over there. But eventually I decided on St. Mary's and to stay at my mom's and then just visit my dad on the weekends and stuff.
Hey, Marcus, a question I like asking is, you said you were playing since you were 6. When for you was, the moment of like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. That light switch just tripped and you're like, all right, I'm going to be a pro baseball player?
That's a good question. I mean, I know that's what I wanted to do, right when I turned on the Giants and watched, Barry Bonds or every night. I knew that's what I wanted to do, and I was probably at that age. But I think it really, became real once I was probably 12.
Damn.
I was just playing really well, and I was getting better and better. And we had a summer where I don't think we lost one game in El Cerrito. Like we were just really good and just playing well. And that's when it was always my goal. But once I started getting better, I knew that it's something I really wanted to work hard at.
You mentioned some Bay Area players. Who are some of your favorite athletes in the Bay? Whether that be athletes, rappers. I mean, what did you kind of grow up listening to or rooting for?
Well, sports. It was the Giants and the Niners. So it was Barry Bonds and Jerry Rice. Basketball. When I got older, it was that the team pretty much they have now. So I like Steph and Clay. I still watched them when it was Jameson and all those guys, but of course, once they start winning titles, you really start to watch every single game. And music, it's funny because I got to meet G-Eazy at an A's game and catch the first pitch, but whenever you get a Bay Area rapper who is around your age and grew up kind of in the same area as you really start to listen to his lyrics and you can relate a little bit to it. And he was a Berkeley High guy, but it's just cool to hear those lyrics that you can actually relate to, as opposed to somebody maybe from, Atlanta or something like, and you're just like, okay, great beat, but I can't really relate to that. So I'd say he's one of the main ones I listen to.
Yeah, we were listening to a lot of Keek the Sneak, The Team, E40, the
I
hyphy
was
movement.
Yeah, that was that was high school. Any school dance or party you went to, that was and then when the pack came out too,
Right.
everybody was real proud of them because once you heard somebody on 106 KML like that, you knew that was like their celebrity. So I remember that too.
Dom was actually a talented rapper in high school and was on 106 KMEL or 94.9. Which one?
It was 94.9. It was a parody track that I made. So it wasn't like, I didn't have an album out there, but there was some, you remember they used to do in high school, the radio stations would come to your school and do the promos or try to like hype something up. And I battled some dude and then went to the station and gave him my parody and they played it. So that was pretty cool, just driving around on the way to a football game at Kezar and then boom, comes on. I was like, oh, okay, all right, but that was, yeah, man. The Bay Area music scene is unreal.
Everybody had those stations on the radio. I mean, we didn't have what we have now with Spotify or Apple Music. Like, it was just the radio. So that was, big time for us.
And burn CDs.
Yes, off of gosh, what were
off the
those?
rip, LimeWire, Kazaa. I mean, we were really stacking it up. I was selling those CDs, bro.
How illegal was that?
I don't know. I don't even want to talk about it. But looking at your high school numbers, you had a pretty crazy high school career. You were killing it, and you actually get drafted by the White Sox. Why not skip college and go straight to the majors?
Yeah, that was a like pretty much my first important decision I ever had to make in my life. I feel like 34th round in 2008, they were offering maybe 50 grand before taxes. After taxes and all that, you start to think about, okay, if I don't make it, where does this leave me? They did offer to pay for school too, so it was a cool deal. But when I thought about UC Berkeley and both my parents went there, and I'm still just a kid that's $165. I don't know much about college baseball or pro baseball yet, and I'm not ready. So that's kind of how I made my decision. And I got to Cal and didn't play much my freshman year. So that really tells you that I wasn't ready for pro ball if I can't even make the starting lineup at Cal. So I'm happy with the decision because I got to get my education and get drafted a little higher after that.
What was your major in college?
It well, sociology, but like I said, so I was drafted as a junior, so I still haven't finished. But when I first stepped on campus, I had high hopes to, do an econ major at Cal, and the first class I walked into, it sounded like a different language, and I said, "All right, let me," and I realized that I had practice at 2 that day, so I couldn't really go study and work on do this like I want to do. So I had to scale it back a little bit, and that's why I went to sociology.
Did one of the things for our listeners that everyone deals with when they want to pursue a dream, and you said, at this point you want to be a baseball player, is the doubt. And maybe you might have had less doubt coming out of high school knowing you already got an offer, but was there ever any like, all right, like I kind of want to be planning for a career if baseball doesn't work out? Or were you kind of like, hey, you know what, like I'm here, I'll pick a major, but I'm going to be a baseball player, or I will be, that's my only option?
Yeah, it's actually kind of sad because that is actually how it went. Because when you get a scholarship to a D1 university, a lot of these kids, and myself included, thinks you're just there to play the sport. And then you realize that, okay, everyone else here is just doing school and they're here so they can get a degree to maybe get a job in that field, but probably not. So I didn't realize that till probably age 20, probably when we had our first kid, like when I was 25, like, oh, that's what college is really supposed to be about. It's not just baseball. But when I was in it, no, I was just thinking about getting to practice and being eligible. And it sounds pretty bad, but that's how it goes for a lot of people.
How did you deal with that? You mentioned that your freshman year you didn't play much. You go from killing it in high school to kind of having to go through some obstacles your freshman year, and ultimately, some ups and downs in college. Like any college athlete, I played basketball in college. Like, how did you deal with that stress and the pressures that came with that?
Yeah, it's tough. Everybody on the college team was probably the best player on their high school team, but the level of play is that much better, especially in the Pac-10 at the time. For me, I was lucky that they send you off to college summer ball. So after I played probably 19 games my freshman year, I went off to college summer ball where they put a wood bat in your hand. It's kind of like the minor leagues. You live with the host family. So I went to Alexandria, Minnesota, and I probably hit about 160 for the summer and broke my finger. So I was like, wow, this is probably, it wasn't looking good. That was kind of that moment where I was like, this is not looking good. And then I got back to Cal, and they said, hey, you're going to play shortstop. And I said, they must not have been watching me in Alexandria, but they told me they wanted me to play shortstop. So that's when I kind of like woke back up, and I had a solid sophomore season and just kept working. I always had that work ethic. I didn't know how to actually play. I was just very athletic and gifted at the time.
Yeah, it seems like the White Sox kind of had your number, and again, they draft you in 2011. Do you think that they were kind of keeping a close eye on you in college while you were playing? Like, how does something like that work for the listeners out there that, you tell them no, and they come back to you again years later and ask you again to play for them?
I think it was a coincidence. I mean, if you talk to the scout, it was the same scout because I went to high school 5 minutes from Cal. So it was the same scout. Adam Virtus is his name. And he put in a good word. That's how it works in baseball. The area scout puts in a good word to his boss, and then they tell the scouting director, just like Paulie, our buddy, he's the scouting director now. And so you just hope that you're higher on their list than the other guys around and the other guys all over the country. And once we got to the sixth round, I hadn't got one call, and we heard from the Brewers, the Rockies, I think, and then I didn't hear from the White Sox, and then all of a sudden they drafted me. So The draft is it's crazy because you just sit there and wait for your phone to ring. It's the weirdest thing. You see all your buddies get drafted and people people you think you're better than get drafted. And the good thing is there was 50 rounds. So I knew that at some point I would probably get drafted. I just wanted an opportunity to play pro ball.
Yeah, go ahead, Dom. Sorry.
No, it's interesting how getting your perspective, we've talked a lot with Paulie and coming from the perspective of the scout, so much goes into that, but as a player, I'm sure now you're getting to know more the back end of baseball and all the things that go into the behind the scenes and off the field. And any insight into that, just kind of like, your view as a player dealing with scouts or dealing with people that aren't on the field and what you've grown to learn about that side of baseball?
Yeah, I think just how much of a business it is frustrating at times because that there's guys getting cheated out of a chance. There now with the pandemic, the draft has shrunk because of kind of a union and owner dispute over money, right? So when COVID first happened, they shut down the season and we were trying to get it started back up. And they're trying to figure out ways to save money because they know there's not going to be fans in the stands. So revenue is going to be down. And as a union, we were trying to figure out a way to get back on the field as quickly and safely as possible. And during that time, we agreed to shorten the MLB draft for the next 2 years. And right when we did that, I felt so bad because I know that some kids are going to get cheated out of a chance because, okay, you're a junior or senior in college, you're already 21 or 22. And if you don't get drafted, now they're going to tell you you're too old once you actually do get into pro ball as a free agent. So the game is in a bad place right now because of the pandemic. And, I hope that guys find ways to get themselves into affiliated minor league ball, even if they don't get drafted right now.
How involved are you in the union? Is it like, I think people don't really understand how it works in professional sports, but is it a bunch of the senior level guys that are making decisions and the young guys are just saying, all right, cool, we're going to roll with what these, OGs in the league are saying? Or do you feel that like everyone truly has a vote?
Yeah, so there's 30 team reps, right? So I was a team rep for the A's for, let's see, 3 years. And the way I became a team rep was one of my veteran teammates nominated me. And I was a younger guy. And the veterans want the younger guys to be involved. So that a lot of times they'll nominate a young guy who they know is going to be on the team for at least 3-4 years. So that's how I got into it. And once you talk to all the other team reps, you start to see there's a lot of young guys. And then you have an executive subcommittee, which I'm on now, of 8 guys who are veteran guys. But that doesn't mean that they run the show. It's the team reps, and it's also the players on each team who give input to their team rep on what we would like to do. So that's I think it's a collective decision-making process. It's not just the OGs, but there's definitely recommendations made by our lawyers in the union and just players who've been around longer.
Yeah. So, just going back to your playing career, I saw that you grinded in the minors for a few years. For our listeners that don't quite understand what it's like playing in the minors, I mean, it's not luxurious. It's a lot of, tough bus rides and obviously the money isn't as good. Can you dive into that a little bit and explain what that was like?
Yeah, the minors is, as a young kid, the minors is great because you get to just wake up and play baseball every day. Once you get higher up to AAA, you see guys who have kids and a family, it starts to really become a grind because everyone knows like having children and a family and supporting a family, you have to have a good job to do that. But when you first get up, it's, you're making less than minimum wage. The good thing is for guys who get drafted high enough, they get a signing bonus that hopefully you put away in the bank and live off of that really. So that's kind of what I did. But when you get on that field, it's the same game, and you play in some cities that may have some brutal weather, real hot. I played in the Southern League, and I played in the Carolina League. And the weather is rough coming from the Bay Area, but I got used to that quick, and you just have to learn how to get comfortable on a bus. You sit on a bus for 12 hours, and then you get off the bus and go right into batting practice. So it's, being young helps during that time because you can bounce back from that. But as you move up, you start to see guys kind of struggle with that grind.
Some of those baseball games in Watsonville got you ready for that hot weather. I remember football games out there is like the water's evaporating off your clothes. That's always rough.
I think the worst part is batting practice because we hit batting practice at probably 3 or 4. And that's like the hottest part of the day. And in the minor leagues, we hit every day because the coaches and the front office want to see everybody work and get better and develop. So you get some hot, sticky days out there. But at the end of the day, I mean, I've met some of my best friends now, during that time in the minors, guys who were at my wedding. You grind together and you become, some of the closest friends because of it. You also have a roommate on the road. It's similar to college a little bit because you room with someone on the road, and it was fun. It was really fun. Some guys probably have a different experience than I did. It's a lot better when you are playing well and getting called up and not sent down. But the White Sox treated me well during that time.
Did you find that? I mean, I'm guessing that in the minors, there's a mixed bag of like, young prospects, probably also some folks who are kind of like, hey, they're on the tail end of their time, they're filling a spot. Do you find that the people who were leaning more towards not going to be going to the majors were really supportive, trying to take younger people and be like, all right, we want to get you there? Or were they kind of distractions being like, hey, let's
drink.
Let's go out and party till 4 a.m. and let's blow off this game and I'm over it today. What was, or was it a mix?
I don't think it was necessarily that bad. Because if the front office saw someone was acting like that, they would probably let them go immediately. Because there's so many guys who they want to give a chance. So they get the right guys in there. The guys who were drafted later but are on the team, usually you see some guys just kind of get sent up and down on a shuttle, like a backup catcher or something. I feel bad for those guys. They kind of get pigeonholed into like an organizational guy. And then you have the bonus babies who are drafted high, who got a lot of money, who all eyes are on them. And those guys feel a little bit of pressure, I think. And I think I fit in the middle of those two groups because I was drafted in, the 6th round where I got every day at bats, but I didn't necessarily have all the eyes on me trying to get me to the big leagues because they invested $2 million.
Your number gets called to the big show and you play against the Yankees and you get your first MLB hit off CC Sabathia, right?
Right.
I mean, what's that feeling like? Obviously he's a legendary pitcher, very well known. Are you pretty ecstatic after that?
Yeah, that was probably the first time I was ever shaking in a batter's box. Like I was standing in the batter's box and my legs were shaking. Probably didn't look like it on camera, but I'm pretty sure that night I swung at almost every pitch I saw, just because, it's kind of like your life flashes before your eyes. It's what you've been trying to do your whole life. And then you get in the box and CC Sabathia, Vallejo native, he will be a Hall of Famer, is on the mound, and Derek Jeter's at short, Alex Rodriguez at third, Robinson Cano's at second, Ichiro's in right, Mariano's in the bullpen.
Gosh, where do you put that ball, man? Where do you hit that,
Yeah, I I still have the lineup card and the ball and everything at my mom's house. That's a day I'll never forget. But I
Did you
ended
hit
up
a home run in that series too?
no, I got a base hit the first at bat, and then in my fourth at bat, I got an RBI single. Hold on one second.
Get away, Josh.
What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, I need you to go. Yeah, so basically it was 2 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, swinging at every pitch that night. But like I said, it was Yankee Stadium, and I was first day in the big league.
Were you? Go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
Do you remember the first first major league home run? I'm sure you remember. Where was it, and what was the feeling during that one?
Yeah, that was probably a couple weeks later in Chicago.
Wow.
This was an 0-2 fastball in off of Jay Happ, and it was, I just reacted and I barreled it up, and I knew it was gone right away. And I ended up being able to keep the ball because it landed in the bullpen. So that's another ball that I have. And once I was running around the bases, I kind of just felt like, wow, like I feel like a major leaguer. Like I just hit a home run in a major league game. And I kind of relaxed after that point a little bit.
What's the trash talk like after that for like a month? Do you text Jay like, hey, remember that time you threw that and I just sent that to the stands? Like, have you been thinking about it? What are your thoughts on it? Do you want to some trash talk on there? I mean, is that happening, or is it usually pretty professional? Like, hey, I'm not going to, reach out like that.
I mean, if it's a guy that, if I played with Jay Happ, if he was on Toronto now, it's something I would definitely let him know just as a joke.
Yeah.
There were times where some of the older vets get sensitive about, how old they are in the clubhouse. Like I remember with the White Sox, I told Paul Konerko, he was on his way to retiring like my rookie year. And I said, man, like you came up with the Dodgers, right? Like, he's like, yeah. And somehow we got to talking about the Giants Dodgers. And I said, I used to go to the Giants games all the time. I was at the game when Barry hit the home run and did a spin and like threw his hands up. Everybody knows that image of Barry Bonds.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I was in that game. And this was 1997. And I said, wow, man, that was my 7th birthday, man. And he just got so mad. That's the kind of stuff you hear in a clubhouse, just young bucks talking to old guys and just ragging on them.
So usually from a place of knowing him, but you're not getting text messages from pitchers being like, yo, I'm sending you 0 for 4 tomorrow. That's not happening.
No, there's probably a select few that do that, but that doesn't really happen. I think it's kind of an awkwardness, honestly. Like say Garrett Cole, like I'm on the union subcommittee with him, and we face each other probably 25, 30 times, but we don't really talk about it that much. We just like, and then you get in the box and you just like hate each other for the game, and that's it.
Yeah.
So weird, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, in 2015, you're traded to the A's, right? And were you kind of like surprised at that point? Full circle, you're coming back to the Bay. Was it kind of like a reunion thing for you?
Yeah, it was. At that time, I was kind of up and down with the White Sox the year before. Didn't really, let's see, we had a shortstop, Alexi Ramirez, who played pretty much every day. So in my mind, I knew I was a shortstop, but I just didn't see it happening with the White Sox at the time. And they had a lot of prospects who were kind of in that same, place I was in. And they also needed a right-handed pitcher. So I guess they called Oakland, and Oakland liked what they saw with my numbers in the minor leagues with the walks and the walk to strikeout ratio. And they got me, and they told me right away, they said they want me to play shortstop. They will let me grind through it. There's going to be some struggles. It may be ugly at times, which it was the first year. But they stuck to their word. Billy Beane stuck to his word and gave me a chance. And 6 years later, I will always thank him for that to this day, because he easily could have sent me down after the first season of struggling, and he didn't, but playing at home was something that I'll never forget. And I wanted to keep playing in Oakland, but it just didn't work out financially. But it was the best time of my life. Got married, had 3 kids. My parents got to watch me play in the major leagues. So something I'll never forget.
Yeah,
Must have been cool. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Just reading about your first couple years, obviously you're reading stuff online and there's a lot of different opinions, but I read somewhere that they had hired Ron Washington to help you with your game. Can you dive into that? And did you feel like he really helped you get to the next level?
Yeah, Wash is one of the best. And he, a lot of people don't understand Wash, because he's a guy who's old school, and he learned how to play infield a certain way, and he coaches a certain way. And I don't want to say it's his way or the highway, but it's something that I really needed, because I didn't have any direction. I'm on a new team that, guys think I am struggling, and guys are kind of looking like, hey, this guy can't be a shortstop. So this was probably a month and a half into the season. I think I had like 12 errors or something crazy, just a lot of, missing grounders, bad throws, the whole 9. And Walsh was on the couch because he had just got let go from Texas. He didn't have a job, and Billy Bean called him. So I have a kid who I know you can help, because he's seen him help Tejada and Xavi before they became superstars. And we clicked right away. I mean, there was not a time where I didn't trust anything he told me. But the main thing was we both had the work ethic to go out there every day at 2:30 when we knew we had a 7:00 game that night, and put in 30 minutes to an hour, full sweat. And his stuff worked for me. His drills worked for me. I think that he's got the guys in Atlanta doing the same thing, and they're one of the best defensive teams in the game. So there's no question that he's one of the best infield coaches in the world.
Switching to the offensive area and hitting, it's interesting. You talked about like struggling or having trouble at times, and being at bat, to me, I don't know. I played a little bit of baseball, but never at that level. It's such an interesting thing because it is the focus of the whole game, right? It's not like basketball or football where you got a bunch of people and maybe you come in and out of focus. Like when you're at bat, it's everything. The moment is there. It's on you. It's very clear, the winner, the loser, who fails. Yet at the same time, through a career or through a year, you have endless, a lot of at bats, right? So you have that feeling like, all right, this is an at bat, but I got another 3 after this, and I got another, 100+ games after. How do you deal with a slump at bat, and how do you deal with kind of struggling and work through that?
Yeah, I think that the one thing I learned, it was funny because that year in 2014, I was playing second base for the White Sox, and we were playing against Minnesota or some team that Torrey Hunter was on. Who he was a vet at the time. He was one of the best players, best center fielders to play the game. And he said, Marcus, like I told him, I was like, I'm struggling right now. Like, and he goes, listen, like if you are an everyday player, your numbers will end up being their numbers, your numbers. And what he meant was you're going to go through all these slumps, but at some point you are going to get hot and get out of it, and it will even itself out. And that doesn't necessarily work in a 60-game season like last year. But when you have a 162-game season and you get a chance to get, 600 plate appearances, 600 at-bats, your numbers will be your numbers. And that's something I was grateful I'm grateful he told me that, because I've kept that with me to this day. It allows me to not go back to the dugout and slam my helmet, throw my bat, because I just chase the slider in the dirt. You just have to realize that it's part of the game, and these pitchers are good too. Another teammate told me that pitcher drives a nice car too. That was kind of his saying, is we're all, this level is the best in the world for a reason.
Who's the most difficult pitcher that you've had to face? It's got to be Bumgarner, right?
Ooh, Bumgarner's good. Bumgarner, he's definitely one of the more awkward at bats because his curveball is so slow and just never gets there. But I would have to go with Garrett Cole, who we'll see a lot this year. I'm in the AL East now. He throws 100 miles an hour and it plays like 105 just because he's able to spin the baseball. It has kind of a rising effect. And now he's working his off speed even better. So when a guy has all that off speed with the best fastball in the game, you're not able to, kind of sit on one.
How about the flip side? You got any pitchers where you're going to the game and you tell the kids, hey, guaranteed daddy's going yard today. I get this, he just throws it just right where I just turn and it's like, it's gone.
There's a couple guys that I have good numbers off, but they also have gotten me too. So
such a political answer right there.
I would probably tell you one of my former teammates, his name is Hector Santiago. He was with Anaheim for a while, but my number, I don't know. I just see the ball really well off him. And it's funny. I think he knows it too, because we got to a point where there was an at bat and he just couldn't get me. And he was looking at me just laughing because we know each other well. And that's probably my number one.
Have you got into any scuffles with pitchers and charged the mound or never in the majors? Has that happened with you?
Never charged a mound. I think there's a YouTube video of Stroman and me
John a little
in Oakland because he did some quick pitch. I'm an old school guy, so anytime someone does some quick pitch thing or starts pitching when you're not even in the box, I might show a little emotion there, and I think that's what happened. But for the most part, I don't really have any interaction with the pitcher besides just trying to focus on that ball. And I've definitely been a part of some bench clearing brawls because of someone else, but that's just you standing up for your teammate, and that's part of baseball too.
I've always wanted, I'll never get the chance, but I've always wanted to do one where you take the hit, you pretend like there's no problem, you start walking, and then you turn and rush the pitcher like that fake out. Like that's always, if I could do anything in life, I would want to just get that opportunity to do that. But I mean, maybe you got to see, maybe you'll find yourself in that spot, but.
So when you watch a ball game every night and you see someone get hit, you just hope to see that, and it just never happens.
Yeah. Oh man, I just love that one where it's where like they're like it's okay, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's on. Just.
Yeah, you got to give that catcher there probably would be a lot more brawls, but usually the catcher steps in, the umpire, and then it's just a bunch of talking. At the end of the day, nobody wants to fight. Nobody wants to do
right.
The headache after seems way worse than that couple 20 seconds of scrapping.
A lot of people probably think about not getting fined too, and like just all the extra that goes with it. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of frustration in the game. There's, I'd probably say back in the day, like the 2000s, when guys were just like really amped up, if you know what I mean. Like you saw it a lot more then, but I think now it's a little bit more laid back, and everybody's just focused on what they need to do to be successful.
The craziest is that guy that he kicks the catcher and then rushes the mound.
What was that? Was that in the minor leagues?
I think so, but it's like you look up baseball fights on YouTube. It's one of the first ones that comes up every time. He gets hit with the ball. He does like a little side kick into the dude's chest. The catcher goes flying back, and then he rushes the mound full speed.
We used to talk about Coco Crisp because he had one with James Shields back in the day. He was on the Red Sox, and Coco was a teammate of mine in Oakland. And you could tell Coco boxed because the move the juke he put on James Shields was something that only someone who boxes can do. But that was one of the better ones I've seen.
Hey, so, obviously over the years, you've gotten a lot better. The money's gotten a lot better. Just last month, you signed your biggest contract with the Blue Jays, probably in your career. and I think in the middle of your career with the A's, you went from, making a certain amount and then it really increased. When that happens, do you feel like your motivation to go out and play better, obviously that goes up more and you feel like, hey, I need to go out and be a lot better because I'm making more money?
You're right. It's definitely not the opposite. It's definitely not, okay, I made it. I'm good now. I'm not going to get better. For me, it's kind of like, I think about, it's funny, when A-Rod got caught with steroids or whatever, he said that he did not want to, play bad on his 10-year, $250 million contract. He wanted to show that he was worth it, which is kind of weird, but when you get a contract like that, guys don't want to play bad. You want to get your game to the next level. But for me, I just understand how much of a business this game is. I know that when you are, seeing free agency this year, I saw how cutthroat it is, how cutthroat these owners are. They'll go for any little stat that you didn't do well and say, no, now I can't give you that. And when you have a family, when you have 3 kids, a wife, you're like, there's no way I can't. I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. and work out as hard as I can and hit and work and make sure I'm ready for the test when the test comes, because this business is too much to do anything less.
Yeah.
When you go to a new team like Toronto, what are some, as far as you are playing it is such a business and you're kind of like going into a team trying to find like, that chemistry and build that. Yet at the same time, you manage, an $18 million a year business, which is yourself and what you do and all that stuff. How do you balance like that business side of it and then just the fundamentals of like, hey, we're a baseball team and there's some stuff we have to do that's at like the little league level of like just simply like getting along or working together? How do you balance those out?
Yeah, I think once the off season is done and the contract negotiations are done and you get into spring training, it does not matter what anyone makes. It doesn't matter what I make. It doesn't matter what George Springer makes. It doesn't matter what Ryu makes. We are trying to win a World Series now, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. Does it matter when you want to? Hold on one sec. Does it matter when you want to take your teammates to dinner or take the young guys to So I was really trying to tell you guys something like important, because you said, okay, what is it like with the team chemistry? Are there little league things that you guys need to do? Yes, I think that if everybody thinks about winning first, then we will be on the right track. That's something that we had with the A's. That's something that I think Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, Chad Pinder, these guys won in the minor leagues and came up to the big leagues and won. That's not a coincidence. I think it's something that people are born with, and it can be learned, but there's some people who just have it right away.
You mentioned that it's cutthroat, and you said that you really learned that through free agency this year. Can you? I get you mentioned that the little numbers, but how can you expand on that? And why ultimately did you go with the Blue Jays? Besides the big money.
Well, this year was a little different because there was probably only 7 teams that wanted to spend and kind of go for it like a normal year. But then when you have a pandemic, there's owners who just do not want to go over a certain payroll. So you just can't. It's just an instant no on, say I wanted a 4-year deal. We're at a certain amount. It's an instant no. So going into it, you have all these high hopes, like, okay, this is my first shot at free agency. This is what I want. I hope I, get an offer like that. And then the off season goes on and you don't. And you start to shift your gears to, okay, what can we do with the 1-year deal? And that's what we ended up with Toronto. There were other teams involved, but at the end of the day, Toronto was the one that had the best offer.
Look, man, I think we could probably talk to you all day. We have a trivia round that we do. It's called the lightning round. And we're going to ask you some Bay specific questions. You know, they'll revolve around Cal, the Bay, you know, music, baseball.
You admit it, I can preface it by saying, hey, this is a very, very difficult. We try to make the questions really hard on purpose, but we have some good ones on here. So we'll give it a try if you got a couple of minutes, and we break it down into preseason, regular season, playoffs, and the World Series. And if you win the World Series, you'll get the belt. We'll mail it to you, and it's the bridge to bridge belt. And actually, the people that have it right now is Paulie's two sisters, Gianna Taboni, who's a correspondent for Vice, and Jackie Taboni, who's an actress on Showtime. So
they got the World Series question right.
That's yeah, and I'll say, you know, we gave them a little some family love. They got a phone a friend, so we'll give you a couple of hints and stuff like that. But I think Mike has a leadoff one with a Cal Berkeley question.
All right.
So
here we go, man. This is preseason. It's tough. Cal students out late will often frequent this late night Italian trattoria to satisfy their late night munchies. What is the name of this spot?
Gypsies.
Yes, sir.
Wow, dude.
You know what? I was gonna ask. I was actually gonna ask you a question.
Another place, Kips. I thought you were gonna go with Kips.
Kips. I've been there. So one of my best friends, Rob Thurman, close friends, played for Cal's basketball team. I actually know a lot of the Cal basketball players. So I called him before this interview and I was like, dude, what's a good question? And he reminded me about Gypsies, dude. Place is so good. Shout out to Gypsies.
Gypsies is open late. That's why it's good, because we used to come back from road trips and that was the only place open.
Yeah.
So, okay, you cruise through preseason. Let's go regular season. And we're going to go with this question. What former Major League Baseball player who played for Oakland A's recently fought and lost in Barstool's Rough and Rowdy?
Oh, gosh. This is where me not being on social media is hurting me.
So let me... I tell you, if you could think of a player who used to be on the A's who would subscribe for something like that, like, hey, I'm going to get into a boxing match on Barstool Sports and fight, you know.
I think I have a good guess.
Okay, what do you got?
Dallas Braden?
No, I will give you a hint, and I'll give you the nickname. He was one of the Bash brothers.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not Mark McGuire.
Nah, Mark ain't rolling with the Rough and Rowdy.
I should have known.
It's all right. We're gonna let you roll on that.
We're gonna let you roll because we know it gets tougher. So you know you got through, and this is a team effort. So you got through on that one. Plus a little bit of a dated question because Canseco was, I mean, that was way back.
And you're not on social, so you're basically like not even.
That was a shot in the dark.
Right. Exactly.
I'm gonna give you a baseball trivia one though that does go back to that era, and it is very difficult because we are in the playoffs, and you know playoffs are no joke. So Dennis Eckersley, he gives up a home run in the '88 game against Kurt Gibson and the Dodgers. You know it, you've seen it, and actually from that, Eckersley coined a phrase which is very frequently used now in baseball about that home run. And he coined a phrase describing it, and it is used now very regularly to describe the home run that Gibson hit and broke my heart as a young A's fan watching Eckersley.
So it's said when someone hits a home run.
It's said when someone hits a home run.
It's like a term. It's like, you know what I mean?
All I have is Glenn Kuiper's voice in my head, and I know that's not the phrase, but
not like an announcer term even, or just describing kind of what was done. You know, Gibson hits the home run, wins the game. Eckersley's actually the one who coined the term describing that home run.
Yeah, I mean, I have a guess. I don't know, but
run it.
Dinger.
Dinger, not a dinger, walk-off home run. Actually, Eckersley
Wow, that's that young.
Yeah, you would have thought it'd be around forever, but it was actually in the Chronicle, and Eckersley was actually talking about walk off, like the pitcher walks off with your head hanging down. Now it's used as like, hey, you hit a walk off home run, like you're off the field, game's over.
Wow.
Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear? Okay, so hey, that's a playoff
It's
question.
okay.
Oh, I did not get that right.
We're going to give you the championship question just because we want to see if you'll get it.
Yeah. Bay Area hip hop, very tough question. We're big fans of. We mentioned him in the interview today. Keek the Sneak says in the song Super Hyphy, he says first, second verse. This is my third. Sixth grade driving to school. I had what vehicle?
A Thunderbird.
Firebird. Very close.
Yeah,
Very close.
I gotta get back on the album.
You got to get back
Bro.
on that old school.
I'll burn you
album.
a CD, man, for hopping on the podcast with us.
We always keep those really tough, but nah, man, you got that Gypsies one, easy work.
Yeah, that's all I got. If it's food, I got it. What does that say?
It's all good. We had Brian Sabian on here, and he didn't make it past the first round. So shout out to Brian.
I probably should have had. You know what? I don't deserve it, man.
It's all good, bro.
Tony's got it for now. They're probably gonna keep it. Those are pretty hard.
They're tough ones for sure, but no, hey, we're super grateful for you coming on, and more excited for the season you're about to have with Toronto, and can't wait to see what you're going to be doing. I know it's going to be big time. So
I appreciate it. I love what you guys are doing. I love the questions, and I hope a lot of people watch this and can learn a couple things and keep it going, fellas.
Yeah, we're gonna.